Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.
Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. With me this week is Joe Gerrity, CEO of Crescent Canna. Thank you very much for joining me this week, Joe.
Thank you so much for having me.
Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You could also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. Joe, I always like to know the background as to what brought you to the cannabis industry. So why did you start making cannabis beverages?
I owned vape stores, which turned into CBD stores, which led me to realize that most people in the CBD industry at that time were basically drug dealers and had the professionalism of such. And not a slight against drug dealers by any means. But we realized that there was a need for professionalism and high quality products in that environment in the CBD market. And then we started selling THC gummies, and then we started deciding what was next. And ultimately what we came up with was that THC drinks are probably the future. Like, that's one way that people are going to consume products that intoxicate them. So we pulled the trigger. We hired someone who'd made those products before. We built a small facility in Charlotte at about 8,000 square feet, 60 barrels, and we just hit the ground running. We found out very, very quickly that was not big enough, so we started using a lot of co-packers, but we still maintain a consistent manufacturing presence at our facility there, as well as fulfillment for our online distribution.
Well, it's a familiar form factor, and I've been kind of surprised. I was a little bit more, I thought there was going to be more of an explosion of cannabis beverages into the market, and I feel like it's finally starting to take foothold.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I think 2-3 years ago, you'd be hard pressed to find anything on a shelf anywhere. And now you go into Winn-Dixie, Total Wine, Circle K, and you see stacks and rows of them. So it's definitely becoming a lot more mainstream. And I think that's because it opens up the world of cannabis to a large group of people that probably were never going to walk into a dispensary otherwise. And they are finding that, as it turns out, a nice low-calorie beverage that tastes great and doesn't make you hungover is a good alternative to their other vices.
Given the type of people that you were working with in the industry when you first got into it, was it like 6-7 years ago? Has that turned over? Is there more professionalism in the industry these days?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are still people making these products in their garage and trying to compete with big operations. But most of our competitors now are well funded. They're run by professionals who wear suits to the office. And it's definitely a big turn from what we saw in the beginning of the CBD days.
So before we jump into some of the current events, you were talking about the facilities and the co-packers that you use. What is some of the equipment that is critical to your operations that you really couldn't live without?
So we have kind of unique products. We use a lot of real fruit purees. We use a lot of real fruit juice and stuff. And as such, we need high shear mixing. We also manufacture some products that do not have as many preservatives in them as some of our competitors. So we need to have high level pasteurization to the point where we don't use any preservatives in some of our products, and they're still good for a year with the shelf life stability study. We use a lot of water soluble terpenes. We've made big deals with, we used to use at our facility in Charlotte when we built it, this equipment wasn't really available and being tailored yet to this industry. So we just use a regular kettle, like a brew kettle, 7-barrel, and we have two 30-barrel bright tanks. We have two 7-barrel bright tanks. We bought a Gosling early on in our operation, and we found out before we ever actually even used it that it's just not enough for us. If we're doing 20,000 cans at a time, somebody on a Gosling would have to power through that for days just to hit the efficiency of like a Wild Goose standard 4-head or 6-head filling machine.
What were those issues with scale? How did you approach those? Was it difficult to find the capital to invest in new equipment?
We were fortunate enough to be making some money selling CBD products and gummies. So we had a pretty good source of revenue coming in. Our strategy was always to lose money for a while. And we knew that the beverage market, we weren't just going to on day one be profitable, right? We had to invest $150,000 in our facility, and And then when you start looking at cans and raw materials and stuff, the costs really added up. But we kind of hit the expectations based on our projections, and we lost money for maybe 6 to 7 months, and then we started being profitable in the beverage department as well, which really allowed us to self-fund. We've basically never taken any real money, so we're probably a little unique in the industry in that regard.
Was there a specific moment where you knew that you had broken through?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, it was funny that we launched down here during Mardi Gras. So I'm in New Orleans, and Mardi Gras is a big event here. It goes on for weeks, months in some cases. Um, and the first 20,000 cans we made came straight down here, and we put them in. I own a couple of vape stores, like I mentioned. We put them in the vape stores. We had a handful of bars and restaurants that were going to pick them up, a small grocery and whatnot, but no big footprint. And everybody sold out right away. People just saw them on the parade route, just people just drinking these things, and they were like, "What is that?" And within the first 2 weeks, I mean, we couldn't make enough of this stuff. So we knew right away that we had something good, and we spent a really long time. I mean, we were planning to originally launch this product in like October of 2021, and we didn't actually get product made until February of 2022. So we were behind schedule, and we'd spent a lot of time building it up and building relationships. So we knew almost right away. And then I think when we got into Rouse's down here, which is a big chain grocer, it's about 65 stores, and they were telling us that we were selling more of Crescent Nine than they were of any other beverage SKU that carried. And and there's another independent grocery store here around the same time that said he's making more money selling Crescent Nine than he is making selling any other beverage he carries: milk, orange juice, lemonade, Coca-Cola. And we were like, all right, if we can keep making this work and scale it up, this is going to hit, and this is going to be a big thing. And I think a lot of smaller companies like ours at the time at least had those similar experiences around the country. And just the feedback we were getting from people too was so helpful. Just like, yes, this is what we wanted. Like, this is where you should sell it. This is where it should be available. This is who you should talk to at this other grocery store. It was like the organic um, reach that we had so quickly. Like, everybody was just telling everybody, and we've sort of just ridden that ever since. And we try to make a really high quality product at a very affordable price, and back that up with professionalism. So it's not rocket science necessarily, but we were definitely right place, wrong time, right place. I'm thinking of a Dr. John song.
Hmm.
Right place, right time, and the right people involved just to do what we need to do to be successful.
Are beverages now the biggest product category in your portfolio?
In ours, yeah, we basically dropped everything else.
Oh, okay.
We decided when we started hitting on the beverage thing, we're a beverage company first and foremost, and we're a cannabis company secondarily now at this point. Um,
Is it all hemp derived cannabis?
yeah, it is. We don't do anything in the THC space, right? In the marijuana space right now. There's just too many regulations, quite
Hmm.
frankly, and it's a lot easier for us to sell to a grocery store and to work with Molson Coors affiliated distributors than it is to go through 6 months of certification and verification and fees. And maybe you can sell in 100 dispensaries in one state. If you make product in that state with cannabis from that state, there's just too much. And I don't think anyone looking at the marijuana industry right now, if you were to say, all right, marijuana is legal, the way that they're doing it is not how anyone would set this industry up right now. Hemp is how you would set it up. And a lot of states have taken the lead on that because the federal government has done basically nothing. So Louisiana, for example, we have to register all of our products with the Department of Health. We have to have the labels approved. They have to have the proper warning labels. We have to have the source for where our product is coming from. It has to have accurate testing that's posted online and is readily available. It has to have a QR code and batch numbers and all these different things that makes sense. If you were a marijuana company, you have to have one of two licenses to manufacture products in the state, and no more are available. So there's just no avenue there. It's not an open market, and ultimately, I think cannabis winds up in an open market, whether or not it happens this year or in 10 years. I don't think we wind up with this strange one product that you can sell in one place and that's it. It doesn't
Yeah.
make sense.
Where do you source your raw materials from?
So we buy a nano emulsified liquid from a third party. We use Perfectly Dosed, who we've been with for a really long time, and they've scaled their operations alongside us. We buy our purees and our syrups and our fruit everywhere from Amaretti to Monins and Aesthetic. fruit purees and all sorts of vendors. Because we really, when we make a product, we make it from scratch. We don't just say, all right, what do you have, guy we already work with? We looking to find the product that works best for taste and scalability. And it's sometimes that's not from the same vendor. So we're all over the place, but we buy enough now where we have pretty good relationships with a lot of the big vendors in this space, and it's been very helpful. And we're speaking with one of the largest purchasers of sugar in the world right now about buying our sugar through them because we buy a lot of sugar, and all of a sudden these companies are willing to have conversations with us, whereas 2 years ago they wouldn't even consider talking to a hemp company.
What changed?
Scale. We
Yeah.
sell a lot. Yeah,
Okay.
we a lot now. We're not buying, we buy sugar by the truckload.
Yeah.
Uh, we buy most of our raw materials by the truck. I mean, the for a long time we were manufacturing with. I'll give you Monins as an example. We were using those little liter bottles that you find in bars, and we would buy 4,000 of them in our co-pack or our facility. We'd say, "All right, open up 4,000 bottles of mango puree." And when you get to a certain point, you just have to call Monins. You have to call these companies and say, "Hey, look, we're using this to manufacture. We're not using this in a bar or restaurant setting. Like we can't keep buying from you if we have to buy it through Restaurant Depot." And they got back to us and they went to the high ups and said, "Okay, cool. We'll make you 400-gallon totes. And how many truckloads do you need a year? And let's have a contract." And they start scaling their own operations to the point where they have to make more of a certain product for us because they know that next year we're going to buy 25 truckloads of it, and that's just not in their plan when they're selling it by the bottle normally.
When you first started making beverages, was part of the equation, just how open the hemp-based industry was versus the marijuana side of the business? Or, did you look at both sides, or was it always going to be hemp-based in your mind?
Well, we launched, I mean, CBD is a hemp product for the most part. You don't really find a lot of CBD being sold at any volume in marijuana dispensaries. So we were following the Farm Bill
Okay.
since day one, and we saw that happening in my stores. So it made sense to go the hemp route. And we expected the reason we're not in like THCA flower and stuff like that is we really thought that federal regulations were going to change at some point. And we felt that the most likely one to survive are the drinks, especially if we could go mainstream with them. So we worked a lot to normalize these products, and I think you have lawyers going into you have a lawyer that's or an accountant. They're not going to go into a dispensary 99% of the time. Like they're not. Middle-aged person who's not a cannabis user, but you go to the grocery store and guess what? They see a brightly colored package on the shelf, and their friend said it's great, and all of a sudden they're a regular customer.
Well, the industry is facing a couple of threats right now. When it comes to a potential ban on hemp-based beverages and products, which of your favorite, which idiom is your favorite? Is it like the toothpaste is already out of the tube? In terms of how the industry is already kind of too big to pull back.
I mean, so I have a good relationship with one of the biggest alcohol manufacturers in the country, and he's been super helpful for me to talk to. And his take on it when I brought up the existential threat that we're facing is he said, the genie's out of the bottle. They're not going to beverages at this point. There are too many businesses that are relying on it. There are too many people making money from it. And if they were going to do it, the time was in the past. Now, that being said, Mitch McConnell is on a warpath here, trying to take these things out. He's looking back at his political legacy as this being the Farm Bill being one of the biggest things he ever did as a politician. He did a lot, and he rightfully so is also looking at it as accidentally legalizing cannabis usage for a huge chunk of the country in grocery stores and gas stations, and he's not happy about it. So he's trying to sneak a poison pill. He's trying to sneak a ban into the continuing government, the bill to reopen the government, and rightfully so. He's a politically shrewd man. No one's going to hold up the government reopening for him, and that's probably the truth, unfortunately. So instead of having this fight in the Farm Bill or via a separate piece of legislation, he's trying to tie it into the government reopening bill, thinking that no one will push back on this and he can fix his legacy and have everything be solved. The reality is something like 72% of Americans support the hemp industry. Texas, you just looked at this bill that was passed through the Senate and the House, and it was vetoed by the governor because it was that unpopular, even in a red state, even with the Senate and the House aligned and the lieutenant governor.
So I imagine this is a hot topic for everybody in the industry. I mean, are you keeping in touch with other industry stakeholders as you kind of follow where it's going?
Yeah, last Monday morning, I woke up to 6 missed calls from my biggest competitors, and I rightfully so, I was a little freaked out. Everyone's a little freaked out right now, and it's not the first time this year this has happened. We've been fighting McConnell and a lot of these people for a long time, and it feels like, to your point, that we're close to the end of it. Like, you're not going to get rid of this at this point. When you reach a certain critical mass, you're not just going to kill an industry without major consequences. And I think we're there, but it's somebody likened it to Russian roulette. It says, there's a good chance we're going to make it, but there's always that chance that the bullet comes out, and that's that. So we're treating this like an emergency. The problem is this is the fifth emergency we've had this year, and I think rightfully so. Media, the industry, they're getting a little bit tired of being told that the end is near, and they're getting a little apathetic about it, about responding to it. So it's hard to keep your foot on the gas all the time with this. And one of the things that I learned about politics through all of this is just how much money is spent lobbying. And by some accounts, hemp is a 40-50 billion-dollar a year industry in the United States right now. And I don't think that we're spending even 0.01% of that money on lobbying, right? And that's a wild thing to think when you're facing an existential threat to your industry. I think that if we get through this right now, there's going to be a reality check for a lot of people, myself included, that we need to allocate a lot more resources to fighting this stuff. Because so far, most of us have been fighting on the state level. Like, we have good lobbying in states. We have good lobbying in around the country. That's how a lot of these hemp bills have become law, and how a lot of states attempting to ban it have failed. It's because we've have boots on the ground, and we have local companies that know their local reps and senators and governors. But on the national level, it's much harder to have those relationships. It's also a lot more polarized on the national level, I think. And alcohol industry, most state by state beer distributors rely really heavily on their national lobbying groups to advocate for federal legislation. That those organizations are just not funded properly in the hemp industry, and that's why we're facing these threats, and it's not just being knocked down. So it's we need to get real as an industry. And one of the things that we've always advocated for years now is for the federal government to actually make common sense regulations that get bad actors out of the market, that create an age gate, 21 plus, for people to use intoxicating hemp products, to have standardizations when it comes to labeling and packaging, and even what you're allowed to use as your intoxicating product. I mean, people are out there using THCP. If you're familiar with that, it's 33 times more absorbable by your body than Delta 9. So if someone does 5 milligrams of THCP, they could be high for days. And you hear these things all the time of people using these gas station products that have no education behind them and no requirements for warning labels or anything like that. And it's makes the whole industry look really bad. And that's one of the reasons we've stuck with Delta 9 so pretty much so thoroughly since the beginning. It's that it's a known quantity. No one's gonna, most people have some familiarity with cannabis, and if not, Delta 9 is not 5 milligrams of Delta 9 is not going to change your life in a negative way. If you happen to by accident and drink one at a party, which is not ideal, but happens. But if you drink 5 milligrams or 10 milligrams of THCP at a party, like, you're gonna have to cling to the ground to stop from falling off the earth. Like, you might call an ambulance because you feel like something's really wrong with you. So it's been tough because we're a $40 billion industry that's really THCA flower, hemp beverages, gummies, THCP, alternative cannabinoids, and everything in between. We don't even know how to fight it necessarily. Are we all one group, or are hemp beverages over here saying we should be legal, but not THCA flower? And I think what's mostly happened is that we've found their strength in numbers and everyone's stuck together, but those cracks are forming. And I think on the federal level, it's going to follow what's happening on a lot of state levels, where drinks are legal, gummies are legal, inhalables are not legal. And you're not allowed to use THCP or Delta 8. You have to use Delta 9 or CBD or CBG or CBN. So it's a lot.
Well, it is a lot. And is the sort of falling down on federal lobbying efforts, is that sort of, ignorance in terms of how big lobbying efforts were, or is it just, industry immaturity?
It's industry maturity.
Yeah.
Really is. It's if you don't spend money and you don't allocate resources, and every company doesn't have a government affairs person, like it's impossible to think you're going to compete with Mitch McConnell and his political war horse or whatever you want to call it. It's we just don't we don't have enough people involved in this industry which is rapidly growing, and the company requires all my time. I don't have time to spend 5 days a week going to Washington to meet with legislators to try to change their opinions, but somebody has to do that, and we need more funding. We need more industry allocations from revenue, and like even this morning, I was thinking, like, what do we really need to do here? Should we start going out and asking companies to dedicate 2-3% of their revenue going forward to lobbying efforts? And should we be looking for 30 partners across the board that are going to do the same thing? So next time this comes up, we're not looking at spending, we don't have a $3 million budget. We have a $30 million budget, because that's what it takes to move the needle in Washington. If I've learned anything, that's it. Money moves people. And we don't have money right now, and we don't have the industry connections from the industry history. So it's just not a good fight for us, and it's been a little scary for everybody.
Well, I mean, I do think that that is what it's going to take. I mean, I think some of that is kind of being naive, just like you with the industry, you think like you want to do everything the best way possible, like social equity, social reform, like we're working with cannabis, like we shouldn't need lobbying efforts. And then it's just the harsh reality of like, we need 10 times the amount of money that we have. We need it now. And we need, like, what do you Google, like lobbyists
Yeah.
near me?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. You ask people who have fought these political fights in other sectors, alcohol, tobacco, Uber, short-term rentals, stuff like that. Um, and you get recommendations, and you go with them, and you hope it works, basically. It's funny you bring up, marijuana a little bit, though. It's one of the issues that we have as an industry is that cannabis is not united in any way. Cannabis is hemp and it's marijuana, even though they're really the same thing. And we've been fighting marijuana since day one here. That in Arizona, for example, like we had a bill that would have legalized hemp beverages up to 10 milligrams in grocery stores and convenience stores, and we thought they were on our side. They were going to allow this because it's banning the flower. And last minute, they just used their political clout to kill it. And now there's no beverages for sale in Arizona. And what's fortunate is that a lot of the big marijuana companies, Green Thumb, being one of them, they've launched their own hemp lines, and they have their own hemp beverages now, and they've realized that being able to sell in grocery stores it opens up the market a little more money to be made than just selling in dispensaries. So another reason that I think they're getting on board a little bit is that these products open people up to the category a lot more. Like I mentioned earlier, doctors and people that are probably not going to go and smoke a joint, but they're drinking this. And you know what? After 3 months of doing this, or 6 months, or a year, maybe they say, "Oh man, I do want to go smoke a joint. Next time I go to Vegas, I'm going to go to the dispensary." And the only way you're going to become a cannabis user is to start using cannabis. So we're opening people up to the category, really, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people agree now on the marijuana side.
Well, I think a big part of that infighting is when you talk about the regulatory differences and the costs, the additional taxes that the other side of the industry faces versus the hemp side. And I think there's almost like a jealousy, just like, hey, it's been 3 times as hard for us, so why should we work for you if you've had it so easy?
Yeah, it's the same people that were arguing free the plant,
Yeah, yeah.
legal. Now they're like, no, no, not like that.
Hmm.
And it's not lost on me that that's the same people that were saying this should all be legal no matter what are now like, no, no, you can't buy weed in a grocery store. Like, oh, that's the horrors.
Yeah.
But it's because they've spent so much money uh in lobbying and licensing and basically time and resources, and they see all of a sudden you have a marijuana dispensary you spend $1 million on, and now your neighborhood grocery store is selling cannabis drinks and THCA flower at half the price with basically no restrictions. It obviously like is upsetting to them as a business person, even if maybe morally they do feel like they should be able to buy those products at those places.
Well, you talk about it being more of a entry point for professionals. I think this was, we had we were at a Halloween party, and I was just looking around, and it was the first time I realized that more than like 50-60% of everybody was drinking a THC or drinking a THC beverage. And
Yeah.
it was great. Like, it was just, it's a different vibe. A lot of people prefer it. And it started as like a small group of us in the neighborhood. And then it's slowly, everyone just like, wants to try it. And they're just like, why do you drink this? It's like, well, because tomorrow is so much easier.
Yeah. It's the truth. I think 15 to 20% of Minnesota is a fairly established market at the
Yeah.
moment. And I think that something like 15 to 20% of beverage sales in liquor stores now are THC beverages. And
Yeah.
it's just the beginning. I mean, this is just the beginning of this industry. Granted, like I said, it's an established market. It's been open for about 3 years, but that's not a long time for an industry to grow. And I think the fact that so many people, just anecdotally, you can walk around in the street in New Orleans and I like find Crescent Nine cans on the ground. I'm like, oh, litter. Like, I'm not for it, but I kind of like it.
Right.
Um, so it's coming. And I mean, more and more Americans are drinking less alcohol. And don't, I like alcohol. I live in New Orleans, man. Like, I'll have a tequila shot before my softball game tonight, but I'll now have it with a Crescent Nine and not with a beer. And I think a lot of people are doing that same thing where they're kind of having a little bit of both now, or they're just, on weekdays they're only drinking weed and on weekends they're still partying. But overall, I mean, I know so many people who are sober entirely from alcohol, and so many of them are now begging me for samples of THC drinks and like, oh man, do you have anything coming out new that we can check out? So there's excitement around the industry, and like I said, it's just in its infancy. I mean, the reality is you can use so many different cannabinoids to make beverages that have different experiences too. I mean, CBD beverages flopped really hard. Like the billions of dollars were lost in the late aughts, if that's what we're calling them now. Um, and that stopped a lot of the big players from jumping in on this. But CBD drinks were never going to be a big thing. But if you have a drink with CBD and CBN or CBG with some THC or THCV for, the uplifting effect, like there's a million alternatives out there for functional beverages and cannabis that doesn't really exist with alcohol. Like you drink alcohol, you're going to get drunk. You drink a THCV drink with CBN, like, I don't know, maybe you're going to do some math.
Well, part of the issue was I saw a quote where you suggested that maybe the president doesn't even know what's going on. Because the quote was, "I don't believe that Trump is aware that Mitch McConnell is trying to quietly kill a rapidly growing 30 billion a year industry that also contributes over 1.5 billion in annual tax revenue. Not to mention that it contributes to the employment of around 300,000 people. It stands opposed to everything Trump has espoused as a pro-business, pro-farmer, and pro-freedom president." That really stood out to me. I mean, do you is that still in line with what you believe today?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think he has a clue that behind the scenes McConnell is trying to kill an industry that, meaning whether he meant to or not, he did create. And it's really fast growing. And it's one of the few categories in America right now where farmers are actually making a lot of money growing these products. And retail store owners are seeing, especially in the beverage side of things, they're actually seeing growth in this category. And it's, for a lot of people, it's keeping the lights on and it's keeping their kids fed. And I don't really understand how re-legalizing marijuana fits in with his plan of abolishing the nanny state and growing small businesses in this country.
Well, and then just looking at what you're facing, I mean, there was a statement put out yesterday collectively by, and I mean, there are so many acronyms on this thing. It's ridiculous. Like, it's a statement by the American Spirits Alliance, the Beer Institute, the Distilled Spirits Council of the United States, Wine America, the Wine Institute, and talking about basically trying to get this banned. And it is, do you think that part of this like sort of slow emergence of the category kind of caught the alcohol industry by surprise, or is it just at such a point now that they're throwing everything they have at it?
What's interesting about that letter is that it doesn't include the two largest lobbying
Yeah.
organizations for alcohol, which is the National Beer Wholesalers Association and the Wine and Spirit Wholesalers Association, which
Mhm.
are bigger individually than all of those other groups combined. Those two organizations are staunch supporters of the hemp beverage industry. And they've said that openly, and they continue to say that, and they continue to lobby on our behalf. Um, I think a lot of alcohol producers are scared, and I don't blame them. I mean, if you're a winemaker right now, wine sales were down like 9% last year. That's a big, big drop. And there's already international and so much competition in that industry that I think they're scared, and I don't blame them, but nobody is dying. No one is trying to, we're not coming at them, right? We're providing an alternative product that people want. They're coming at us. And the reason why is because they're trying to protect their business interests. And I don't really know what to say to them. I'm sorry that people don't want your products as much anymore. Like that sucks. It does. You've had a long run. Maybe it'll come back. I don't know. But the sales right now are lagging in all those industries. Craft beer is getting killed, wine is getting killed. Even traditional beer is getting killed right now. RTDs are doing well. The uncarbonated or flat RTDs are doing particularly well, like those teas with no carbonation and stuff. Like there's innovation to be had in the alcohol industry, and I feel bad for them. I do, but it's not really. If it wasn't me, it'd be somebody else. And the idea that you're going to just ban cannabis drinks and all of a sudden everyone's going to go back to drinking wine, like it's not really what's going to happen here. Like people are just going to go and buy their cannabis in some other way. They're going to go buy it from a drug dealer. I mean, is that the goal? Is that what wine thinks is big wine is good? Is for us to be selling our products through the black market? Like some guy in his garage is now making drinks and you're buying it. No one's paying taxes. It's not regulated. There's no enforcement because nobody enforces cannabis anymore. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what their plan is here, other than blame us and I guess try to kill us.
Well, I mean, try to kill you, but then what's the next logical step? I mean, isn't the next logical step that they're going to try to buy you?
I don't know. I mean, I wish I think already you have major players talking to companies like ours about investment. So that's not a new thing. Now, none of the big guys have invested yet. And when I say the big guys, I mean like Diageo, Constellation, the big people that own a lot of brands, Molson Coors, Anheuser-Busch, et cetera. But it's coming. I mean, if the farm if we don't get killed here, and I don't think we will, I think in 2026 you're going to see some pretty big consolidation around the industry. I mean, a lot of these companies are waiting for federal guidance, one way or the other. Can you do this or can you not do this? If you can do it, they're all in. There's no way Molson Coors and Budweiser and Anheuser-Busch sits on the sidelines and watches our companies all just grow up to be big competitors for them. They're going to buy every single one of them, and they're going to probably try to launch their own, which they haven't had a lot of success with in previous versions of the RTD category or new categories. And they're just gonna own it, and they're going to distribute through the same distributors they already use, and the beverage industry will survive. It's just a matter of small where the winners and losers fall a little bit more.
Well, as you survive and hopefully thrive, what are your ideas for expansion going forward?
We have a liquor bottle style product that has like 5 milligrams per pour. We're gonna have a version coming out in about a month that has 10 and also 20 milligrams per pour. Just a delicious, relatively low calorie cocktail alternative. You can mix it with your favorite drink. You can put it on ice. You can drink it straight. We have a gummy project coming out that is going to be really similar in design to our cans and very low price, very affordable, kind of grab and go items at the gas station. Buy it alongside your Zin when you go out for a night. And then obviously we're looking at functional beverages as well, a little bit more, as I mentioned earlier, just different makeups. A lot of people are using like lion's mane and similar fungi products to manufacture beverages that have a specific goal. We have not been able to nail the flavor on that one, and we just don't want to come out with products that don't taste good. So it's kind of a work in progress, but it's on the table. And then we have a flat brand of tea that's going to be coming out in a couple months also. That's kind of made for big box retail and just tastes amazing, and will be well priced and kind of follow the same pattern that we've had with Crescent Nine, where you just make a really good product and put it at a good price and have the good distribution, and people, hopefully will really enjoy that as well.
Have you ever run into any issues with dosing when you talk about per pour?
Everybody in this industry has issues with dosing to some degree. you just don't. Sometimes there are chemical reactions that occur in when you're manufacturing a product, and sometimes the testing companies are not very good. So that's why we test everything like 4 times. It's before it goes somewhere. We destroyed last year. I destroyed like 300,000 cans at a new co-packer we were using because it all came in low. And that meant, months of R&D trying to figure out why we put in five and it came out at 2.5. And, so it's a challenge, but we've worked really hard on that. And I think we've largely nailed it. But it's interesting because the industry as a whole, when you look at a lot of the regulations that are being put into place, they're saying plus or minus 10%. You want to be within 10% of the target dosage. And it's way harder than people would think to get in there. I mean, there's just even the testing labs will tell you that that's your variance when you're looking for this kind of stuff. You're looking at for such small amounts and of these products, and sometimes the testing labs don't get it right, and we have to ask for retests because we're like, we know we've made this product 4 times at the same place with the same products by the same people. Why is this one not testing right? So we send in like 4 more cans or 8 more cans from the batch at all the different parts, and they all come back at a different number. And all of a sudden, we're like, what was wrong with the first one? Why, did you have bad lab tech? Did you not prepare the sample properly? So we're eager for the testing industry to grow up a little bit more too. It's all these guys are coming from marijuana, and it's just testing beverages is not the same thing as testing flour. It's harder. It really is. And we had issues where because we were using purees where some of the THC was getting like encapsulated in the fruit molecules or something like that, and it wasn't showing up on a test, but it was still in a blind study with we gave it to 20 people and everyone thought it was absolutely normal how it always was. So we're like, all right, well, how do we fix this? So we know what's in the product is right, but how do we fix it so the testing is also right?
Um, is that's what happened at the that co-packer? Was that the molecule was getting trapped in
I
the
think it, I think
puree?
it was a combination of really high heat pasteurization
Okay.
and and what we found out later on was that our can liner, the can liners in these things it's not just like a metal liner, like they're sprayed by a paint company basically who has a liner that's made for this, and they'd upgraded our can liners without telling us, and those can liners are actually absorbing the THC.
Whoa.
So we'd put in five, and it was right because our tank said five and our can said five, and we tested it, and then like finished product, we're like, why is it at 2.5? And then we tested it later, like, why is it at 2? And what we found out is that the can liners that they'd moved us to were actually eating the THC, or at least absorbing it. So we just had to throw away a ton. We threw away like 300,000 finished cans and probably like 600,000 or 700,000 cans that we didn't even use. Recycled them, but had to get
Wow.
rid of those because they're useless to us.
Did the co-packer help you out at all?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I mean,
Okay.
everyone was made whole eventually through this, but
Okay.
it was a process, and it cost us a lot of time, and it cost us a lot of resources to figure out what the problem was, fix the problem, and also having inventory shortages when you're relying on having a fairly significant amount of product made and having the cans to make more, and all of a sudden you don't have any of that, so you're scrambling. How are we going to make product just to fulfill our existing obligations? And that's when having our own facility was really helpful, just being able to pump out, 20 and in some cases 40,000 cans a week, with just print labels with standard bright cans that we'd worked with before. So
So when your day to day is fighting for the survival of your business, making sure that you're supplying all of your current customers and focusing on how you're going to grow your business, how are you sleeping at night?
Custom nine. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. It's a lot right now, and
Yeah.
this is my first time running a company of this size. Like I have a few other smaller companies between like 10 and 20 employees, but we're over 40 employees now, and that's for me, that's probably the most worrying of this. It's just like, man, if this happens, like so many of us have like specialized skills in this industry now. It's not going to be like cool. You just jump in and work for an alcohol company. Like a lot our sales reps for sure, and a lot of our office people wouldn't have a problem. But like some of our more technical oriented people, if the hemp industry just disappeared, I mean, there's going to be 10,000 people with hemp specific knowledge jumping into the job market, and what happens with all of that? I don't know. That's what troubles me the most, I think. But
Well,
I don't know. Work out, run, get tired, play with my kids, and by the time the day ends, just listen to Dungeon Crawler Carl and go to bed.
well, keep fighting the good fight. It sounds like you're in a good spot of leadership, and you understand what needs to be done in order to keep going.
Well, you know what to say about ideas.
Well,
Yeah, no, I think that after this fight is hopefully wrapped up, the industry is going to consolidate a lot and figure out what we want to do. Like, are a lot of us are we fighting for hemp or are we fighting for the hemp beverages? And I don't know what the answer is going to be. I know that the hemp flower industry right now is making an absolute ton of money, and the inhalable market, and those guys are making a ton of money, and we don't have as much of a relationship with them because they don't really lobby. They just sort of exist and do whatever they want. That's why a lot of the companies like mine, we want to separate. We want to just be, we are hemp beverages. We're fighting for hemp beverages. We have the support of alcohol. We have the support of distributors. That's what we want to fight for. But again, you're separating yourself from an industry that is making so much money right now, even if you don't think it's going to be there soon. So I don't know. A lot goes on every day. It just hope for the best and keep on trucking.
Joe, I really do appreciate you sharing your insight with us today. Before we get out of here, is there anything else that you want to make sure the Cannabis Equipment News audience knows either about yourself or Crescent Canada?
Well, we used Deutsch when we bought our stuff. They did a great job setting us up. Really helpful in the beginning. And they're the only people we've ever really worked with on that side. So nothing but good things to say about those guys.
Oh, very good.
And if you're looking to actually make a lot of product, the Gosling's not big enough.
Yeah. Well, very good. Thank you very much, Joe, man. I really appreciate it.
Very much appreciate you having me on, and got a great show.
Before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com with email the podcast in the subject line. For Joe Gerrity, CEO of Crescent Canna, I'm David Manti. This is the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast, and we will see you next week.
Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.